Guilty.
And to count 6, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony.
With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Now, a lot of you will have been with me during the live that we had yesterday regarding the hearing for the Ruby Frankie case, and obviously we didn't get to see it, but the outcome of it was that she pled guilty to 4 of the 6 counts of child abuse, and unfortunately it seems like it was a lot worse than what we originally thought, as the details have emerged of what actually happened to those children.
Ms. Frankie, how do you plead to count 1, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 3, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 5, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 6, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
With my deepest regret and sorrow for my family and my children, guilty.
There is a factual basis set forth in the agreement that is a stipulated factual basis, counsel?
That's correct, Your Honor.
That is correct, Judge Walton.
The court finds that the factual basis is sufficient. All of the terms of the agreement are stipulated, including that the court obtain a pre-sentence investigation report, correct?
Correct.
There won't be any argument about whether prison is the appropriate sentence, and there's an agreement about the 4 counts running consecutive.
That is correct.
All right. The court finds then that Ms. Frankie's pleas are made knowingly and voluntarily. The court therefore accepts and enters those pleas.
So that was Ruby pleading guilty to 4 of the 6 counts of child abuse. Now, what were those instances that she was pleading guilty to? Because obviously it's a bit unclear. She's just pleading guilty there, but I'm going to show you a clip now of what those actual charges were in horrific details. So if you are of a weak disposition, perhaps not watch this bit. So there's a bit of a trigger warning. It is quite horrific. Now, I'm not going to read it out myself because personally it was difficult to read it in the first place. So I'm going to let the guys at Law and Crime cover this now.
Approximately May 22nd, 2023 until August 30th, 2023. So now we have a date range, 3 months of this abuse. In Washington County, Utah, the defendant, Ruby Frankie, intentionally or knowingly inflicted and allowed another adult to inflict serious physical injuries upon her children that were ages 9, EF, and 11 to 12, RF, as more fully described below. The physical torture of RF. Initially, RF was forced to do physical tasks for hours and days at a time. These included wall sits, carrying boxes full of books up and down stairs, and working outside. Eventually, RF was forced to do outside labor without shoes and in the summer heat. He was forced to stand in the direct sunlight for several days. He was forced to remain outside at all hours of the day and night for extended periods of time. These actions resulted in repeated and serious sunburns with blistered and sloughing skin. RF was denied adequate water for several of the days he was required to remain in the summer heat, and he was punished when he secretly consumed water. He was denied sufficient food, and when given food, he was given very plain meals, example, rice and chicken, while others in the house ate regular and more flavorful meals. He was isolated from other people and denied all forms of entertainment, including books, notebooks, and electronics. In addition, after RF attempted to run away in July, his hands and feet were regularly bound. Binding included being tied to the defendant and to weights. Many times, the binding included using 2 sets of handcuffs, one on RF's wrists and one on his ankles. Again, very consistent with what we've heard so far about his injuries. At times, with RF lying on his stomach, ropes were used to tie the 2 sets of handcuffs together so that his arms and lower legs were lifted off the ground. The bindings resulted in injuries to RF's wrists and ankles, where the handcuffs cut through the skin and damaged the muscle tissue. These injuries were treated with homeopathic remedies and covered with duct tape. That's when we heard about the cayenne pepper being used. Then the bindings were placed on top of the duct tape. As if that wasn't horrifying enough, it goes on to say, again, all part of count 1, physical torture. Specific instances of abuse committed by the defendant include 1, kicking RF while wearing boots, 2, holding his head underwater, and 3, cutting off oxygen by placing her hands over his mouth. I know the maximum sentence that may be imposed for each crime to which I am pleading guilty. I know that by pleading guilty to a crime that carries a mandatory penalty, I will be subjecting myself to serving a mandatory penalty for that crime. I know my sentence may include a prison term, fine, or both. I know that in addition to a 90% surcharge will be imposed, I also know that I may be ordered to make restitution to any victims of my crimes, including any restitution that may be owed on charges that are dismissed as part of a plea agreement. I know that if there is more than one crime involved, the sentences may be imposed one after another consecutively, or they may run at the same time concurrently. The defendant agrees to serve a prison term, and the sentences for each count are to be served consecutive to each other, agrees to testify truthfully against Jody Hildebrand, and in return, the Washington County Attorney's Office agrees to remain neutral regarding future hearings before the Utah Board of Pardons and Paroles.
So as you can see, the details were horrific in the extreme. It is so much worse than I personally thought. Definitely, I would imagine it was worse than a lot of you thought as well. And to be honest, any form of leniency that I had towards Ruby has dissipated, completely gone, right? I mean, I get the point of view whereby she is being used as a pawn to get Jody, so a few of the charges have been dropped against Ruby, and possibly a bit of prison time is going to be taken off, but only in the sense of trying to get Jody so that Ruby has to testify against Jody. One of the terms of agreeing to all this is that she has to testify, so that's a good thing, because it's imperative that somebody like Jody does not get off at all with this. History has told us that Jody is a very, very dangerous woman, right? So it's essential that she does not get off with this. As for Ruby, though, it's horrific listening to the things that she either did or allowed to happen whilst the kids were in her care, right? And I personally think, because I thought that maybe that she might get off with this, or she might get a low sentence because she maybe didn't play the most active part in it, but listening to the things that her kids went through was so bad that I don't think any judge in the world would give her a lenient sentence. Yes, he might knock a year or two off here and there, but I don't think that she's going to get away with it, so to speak. So I think she's going away for a long time. That's the very least that she deserves. Now, if we remember, a few days ago, she put out a statement via her lawyers stating how sorry she was and how she was trying to mend bridges with her family. I can't imagine that her family have sat there and listened to that and thought, yeah, I want something to do with this woman. I can't imagine it. So I don't know what Ruby's thinking. well, actually, no, I do. It is purely greed, and that is to try and get as low a sentence as possible. She's not sorry for what she did. She doesn't even agree that it's wrong, you know. It is purely a game to try and get off, and that's it, right? She doesn't care about her family. She doesn't care about her kids, definitely. And personally, I hope that they lock her away forever and throw away the key. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this situation. I'm also going to be covering the Jody case when it comes up on the 27th of December. So if you want to follow that, I know it's not as high profile given that Ruby was the YouTube superstar, so to speak, but it's still a very important case. Well, it's the same case really, but let's hope that she gets what's coming to her as well. Until next time, please take care of yourselves, and I will see you again soon in another video.